Greetings. Today the moon continues in Cancer, and we had a, or have a, actually depends on when you are watching this video, first quarter moon in Cancer at 7:14 p.m. Pacific time. So that's 10:14 p.m. Eastern. And that is that is the exact first quarter moon on Friday. That's what I'm trying to say. So Friday, April 4th at 7:14 p.m. Pacific, and that first quarter moon is exact at 15 degrees Cancer. For those who are watching their own charts, middle degrees of cardinal signs are being activated by this first quarter moon. Yesterday, I shared quite in depth. There are a lot of pieces to look at in terms of the Cancer moon and this first quarter moon, and the involvement of Mars and Mars in Cancer, the Aries energy of the current moon cycle. So let's break that down and kind of review to wrap our minds around what is going on and take a look at what it means for the weekend heading into Mercury's station early morning on Sunday, and the moon will be going into Leo Saturday night. I'm Marina Orms here with your Astro Vibe for Saturday, April 5th. Thank you so much for being here. So if you watched yesterday's video, I packed a lot into a few minutes there. So the highlights of what we talked about were the Cancer moon energy and the power of feelings and sensitivity, and why it's not just a bad thing a bad thing to be sensitive, but it's actually a good thing, and it helps us as we move and evolve in our sense of self, and emotions help us release things, right? So we can move forward with more clarity and feeling lighter and all that good stuff. So the energy of Cancer also has to do with nurturing, with caring, with protecting, right? Providing a healing presence the way that one has that instinct when caring for a child, to provide that protective, nurturing, safe space for the child to do their own self healing, their own self-care that they need to do, or even just figuring things out, right? How to manage emotion, how to do life, and all the things that we have to learn when we're young to have that safe space to do that within. But that energy also translates into how we show up in the world, how we care for one another, how we think about the vulnerable parts of ourselves and the vulnerable parts of society, and how we can create space to be vulnerable, create that safety, and things like social safety nets that help us get through, right? To do the work of figuring out how to do life, just the same way children have to figure these things out because they're learning. Not to say, not to say that adults don't have things figured out, but sometimes we need that extra help. And that's who, at least to me, that feels like what's important about living in a society, is that we are here for one another. We help one another. We help each other, and we provide that space for one another to figure things out or to get through a hard patch or whatever it is. So at any rate, I digress. So the other thing I talked about is the first quarter moon, and that first quarter moon energy has to do with making a decision, with that invitation to step up into new ways of being, to find your courage, or to make a decision that takes you maybe in a direction that is not totally, completely comfortable and familiar, but is really important as we all move, make our way through our journey through life. And sometimes we need to step up into new options, new choices, and new opportunities. So that first quarter moon is inviting us to step up into new ways of seeing things, new ways of seeing ourselves, new ways of taking action or finding courage. But that courage piece comes in more from the fact that we are in an Aries solar eclipse moon cycle. So we have the energy of Aries with us, also asking us to step up, to take risks, to be bold, to be courageous, to take action, to move things forward. And that can show up in a number of different ways, but in particular with Mars in Cancer, it's inviting us to think about how to defend and protect the more vulnerable parts of ourselves and society. So that mama bear energy, that energy of, you know, how do we need to take a stand? How do we need to take action to defend and protect what we care about? What kinds of safety we want to create for ourselves and one another, and how we defend that ability to feel safe. So that's kind of at the essence, the foundation of what the energies are leading us through. And certainly you can see that showing up in the United States in the way that things are unfolding and evolving in terms of the political situation, but also just in the identity crisis that we are in the midst of. And so thinking about what we care about and what we're going to do about what we care about and how to take action. So those things are uh, very present with these energies. And then later in the day so we've also got the moon passing by Mars today, so Saturday, April 5th. And the moon, of course, activating that Mars energy very actively. So the moon is the mood of the day. And as the moon passes by Mars, it says, hey, what are you going to do about this? And so that impulse to take action, and I'm not just talking about political situations, it could be anything that is showing up in your life. Could be very personal to you and not something that someone else is experiencing. But what the energy is saying is, hey, what are you going to do about this? How are you going to take action? How are you going to step up, take a stand, do something that helps to shift things in a more positive or healing direction? What does that look like for you in your life? How do you do that? And so, just like I was saying yesterday, with the Cancer moon, thinking about self care, remember that being vulnerable is a way of being more honest about your experiences, your truth, what it is you really feel or think, or maybe have been wanting to avoid because it's uncomfortable, it's not convenient. But the Cancer moon says you got to feel these things. You got to feel your feelings. Just like when a child falls down, they have to express their sadness and their anger. We also, as adults, have to feel our feelings. It is a way of moving through them and getting clear about, again, coming back to action because of the Aries solar eclipse, Mars in Cancer, the moon joining up with Mars, Neptune now in Aries. Neptune is that bigger picture of what we care about, what has a sense of something that has meaning beyond the here and now. So, bigger picture principles, bigger picture of meaning, bigger spiritual truths. All of those things are something that is with Neptune going into Aries. It's now saying, okay, how are you going to act on this? What are you going to do about it? You see a theme repeating here. So, that Neptune in Aries energy is here for us for a few months before it retrogrades in October. back into Pisces. But then in January of 2026, Neptune returns to Aries, well, where it will be until 2038. Long time. So we are we are not going to do this all in one day, but these energies are activated by the placement of the moon. Mars also is making its way through Cancer, will be entering Leo, shifting its energy to more of a expression, the Leo energy of who's gonna win, right? Like a more of an ego centered. Whereas Mars in Cancer is about how do we defend and protect the more vulnerable parts of society? What do we care about? How do we take a stand for that? Once Mars goes into Leo on, I believe it is April 17th, that Mars goes into Leo. And so that brings a shift in the Mars energy to maybe more of a battle of personalities and that type of thing. I won't go into that right now, but the point is that Mars is finishing up its last couple of weeks in Cancer. And then once it goes into Leo, it forms an opposition with Pluto toward the end of the month, completing a long series of 3 Mars-Pluto oppositions that are kind of shaking things up and causing a sense of crisis, a sense of, oh my goodness, I better do something that has been happening since the first Mars-Pluto opposition took place the Sunday before the election, the November election in 2024. So we've been dealing with this opposition since then. And toward the end of April, we will start to see some completion around that. What has been erupting, what has been moving and shaking is going to take a new direction, a new turn, or become clarified in some way. So more on that later, but we are feeling that Mars energy as the moon passes by Mars in Cancer. Not done yet. So also early Sunday morning, Mercury stations direct. So we're going to have whereas we have had this backward, inward sense of review, of reflection, of looking deeper inside to clarify and understand what we think, what we want to say, how we communicate, all of those things. With the Mercury station, we have, and so Saturday and Sunday, we will have this energy of Mercury coming to to be more felt around communication, voice. What are the words? What is the language? What is being said? What is being heard? How is it being heard? Is it being heard in new ways? What is that Mercury energy bringing in terms of communication and messaging? All right, and then there's my cat. Hang on. All right, she's an older cat, so she doesn't understand waiting. She just meows louder and louder if she doesn't get the door open right away. So, so anyway, where was I? Mercury. Okay, Mercury stationing, and we'll have the heightened energy of Mercury in Pisces. So communication, languaging, maybe potentially communicating a bigger picture, which Pisces can help us tap into. Again, bigger picture principles, spiritual truths, things that have meaning in the bigger picture. So that would be the ideal. Also, there can be confusion, miscommunications, right? That type of thing may show up as well, but hopefully we can steer things in the direction of connecting to these higher principles, heart opening messaging, and connecting with what brings a bigger picture of meaning. So The final thing that I will say is that today, at the end of the day, so around 9:30 p.m. ish, Pacific time, so 12:30 early Sunday morning for Eastern time zones, East Coast of the United States. Um, Moon goes into Leo. So we have that shift also from the feeling oriented Cancer to Leo, which is more about sharing and expressing and making art and sharing ideas, thinking and self expression. So finding ways to express what we feel, what we care about, putting it into art, putting it into, again, and thinking about communication with Mercury. So, ways of communicating bigger picture messages. So, that is what I will wrap up with. Thank you so much for bearing with me with breaking down all of what I see as being really important to acknowledge right now. And of course, we're not talking about everything, but these are the highlights that I want to highlight today. So thank you so much for being with me, and trust yourself, support yourself in your feelings, in your vulnerability, in your truth, and ask yourself, what does it mean? What does it look like for me to take action or move things forward from this deeper place where I feel things, where I'm being honest and in my truth? And what does that look like for you? How does that show up in your life? So thanks for being here. And I'm Marina Orms. You can learn more about me, how to book a reading with me at astrologyheals.com. Thank you for being here and for subscribing to this YouTube channel. I appreciate all of your support, and I will see you next time with more astrology for unshakable self-care. Bye for now.